If you're looking for your next indie comic book read, I got some recommendations for you. Hello, friends. Welcome back to John's Comics with Kids. I'm John, and I'm a big indie comic book fan. I got a lot of collected editions. I prefer reading comics collected personally, so I tend to have a lot of these in my collection. I want to share some of my favorites with you, and I'm hoping that this is not going to be a massive image list. It's possible it's going to be very image heavy, in fact, more than half. But that's just because I think they're leading the way in these really great hardcover collected editions. And I've got several different sizes I can show you so that you get a sense of kind of what they do, because they really do present beautifully. But don't worry, I do have a few other titles I can throw in there as well. So I got a top 10. I got three honorable mentions here behind me that I'll get to at the very end. But hit the like, hit the subscribe, and let's dive right in. I'm going to start with the smallest one in my collection because I really did enjoy this series, obviously as quality of the product, but the way it was produced, very different. And I'm talking about Strangers in Paradise, and these are the pocketbook editions. There are 6 of these that complete the entire run of Strangers in Paradise, that original volume. And I highly recommend if you can find these. I know they're not necessarily in print as much anymore. Now they're doing these somewhat larger format compendium editions, and I've looked at them and I haven't been as impressed. I know obviously this is a shrunk down version. They took the artwork and shrunk it into a paperback book size, and that can irritate some people. And I've seen some of the single issues, and I know how the artwork should look. So I'm not lost on the visual aesthetic of it. But there was something about reading it this way because there are big sections of the story in prose and in poetry, and I think it felt more like I was just reading a novel. And in that way, it felt less like a traditional comic book. And it worked because the story subverts the medium in a lot of ways, and it works really well. There aren't a ton of added pieces here and frills. Instead, it's really just the story itself. But there was something about this format that really stuck with me, and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted it in this discussion for you. So yeah, Strangers in Paradise, these are the pocketbook editions. And again, there's 6 of them, each with a different character on the spine. So check it out if you haven't heard of that series before. It might be something you enjoy. Next up, I've got my more recent title. This one coming out just recently. They published the collected edition of Traveling to Mars. I'm going to be on JP Budget Collecting's channel on Wednesday, and this video drops Thursday. So that means you can go and watch the replay as we discuss this incredible Mark Russell, Roberto Melli series. 11 issues long, and there's a trade paperback. This is from Ablaze, and I really do love this story and this collected edition. There's even a Kickstarter for a hardcover, and of course I have backed that, so I'm expecting my hardcover to arrive sometime, hopefully in the next year. But I don't know that it's necessary because this is a jam-packed trade paperback edition. Usually soft covers, trade paperbacks, they don't necessarily have a ton of extras, but beyond the 11 issues, this volume really does pack in some cool things. It's got, of course, all the variant covers for this story about a man on his way to Mars, knowing it won't be a return journey, and all the kooky aliens and characters that he meets along the way. Really great variant issues here, but they also have some wonderful written pieces that I really enjoyed. Whether it's breaking down the different characters and the different themes and why the characters were done in certain ways. And then, of course, they open up the sketchbook for Roberto Melli, and you can kind of see how he was designing the characters and what his intentions were with some of these beautiful creatures and these funny robots and what he was trying to craft here. I love seeing his designs for the variants and all the different covers that he did. And of course, just the work he did on these characters, which were meaningful to me. And then, of course, you can see even like paneling and how his pencil sketches started coming out little by little. You get a sense of it. So this was a really fun edition. I was really impressed by it, and it captured even more of the great story I already really love. So that's Traveling to Mars. Next up, I've got Kanto, and I am a massive fan of this series. I'm so grateful that Dark Horse gave them a new home after IDW and started producing these wonderful hardcover editions. There are now 6 of them out, or is it 5? It might be 5 actually. And they're really wonderful though. They capture the artwork beautifully. This is volume 1. David Boer and Drew Zucker did such a beautiful job with this. Of course, it also includes all the variant covers, which I think people will be very upset if they didn't. But there's a bunch of fun character designs. Obviously, this is a fantasy universe, so you get to see how they are coming up with how Drew was designing the different characters and what that kind of process looked like. There's also some fun script to page pieces, which you might actually love as much as me, getting to kind of see how the blue line pencils and the script match up with one another before you get the final results. There was just a really good sense of what the different layers of inking and coloring added to a given piece of artwork. This series is great, visually stunning, meaningful, and I think this is a perfect way to capture the story. So if you haven't heard of it, you should pick it up. I've given it away before. I've read it many times. It's worth your time. So that's from Dark Horse. And my last non-image title is an older one from Alaxis Press. This is The Leaning Girl. And shout out to Gore Vidal, who sent this to me. He gifted this to me. This is a massive, almost like coffee table book sized edition of this. I believe it's a Dutch story. The creators are European, Western European, and it's a science fiction fantasy story about some bizarre occurrences that impact our lead character, our title character here, Mary, and you see the ways in which she adapts to that, the ways in which science and art blend together. This is a very unusual book, very unusual story. Certain pages are wonderfully hand drawn and look gorgeous. Others include photography, and I'll try to see if I can find one here quickly. Yeah, there's actual photographic imagery utilized to tell the story. It's all in black and white, but the way in which it moves between sort of reality and fantasy, the way it blends science and artwork, it's a really beautiful edition. It has these wonderful interior flaps as well. There's not a ton of extras at the end. They give you a little bit of the practice work, the pencil work, which is really stunning, like really gorgeous. The character designs are really interesting, but ultimately you're buying this for the beautiful large format and the incredible artwork you're going to find within. There's a whole series of these. It's the Obscure Cities series. This is the only one I've read, and it's absolutely incredible. Really different kind of reminded me of, great French cinema, Italian cinema. So if that kind of thing interests you, it's a great addition to have. All right, so now we're into the image party. The rest of this is a massive image kind of stuff. And what I noticed going through these was that Image has 3 different sized hardcovers. So I'm going to kind of break it down by size. I'm going to start with the smallest size, and my pick for that era is Reckless. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, you really can't go wrong. I try to buy anything and everything these two gentlemen do together. You generally get great film noir or noir stories. So this is a detective series about a private eye named Reckless and the crimes that he's trying to solve and what that looks like in his universe. It's a great series, very pulpy, very fun, and these hardcovers are just the right size. They go into the process, of course, which I always really enjoy. You get a sense of kind of how it goes from script to final version. You can get a sense of the character work that they're doing on the interior. These two have such a great language together that ultimately what I get out of this is a real synthesis of story and what it is they're trying to tell, right? There are several books in this series. I think they're on volume 6 now. So you can continue the story, but you almost can go in any order. They stand alone as kind of fun pulp novels often do. So that's the smaller size, but let's go up one size bigger. And I'll start with one of my favorites in the next size. So that's Little Bird. And you can see Little Bird is definitely a bigger volume than Reckless. So the next size up is a very common size. And I think I would argue this is probably the most common size. You can find a lot of their editions in this slightly larger than comic book sized collected edition. Little Bird is stunning. And this is the perfect way to read it. This hardcover edition is gorgeous. The book is reproduced perfectly. And then, of course, a ton of artistic extras at the back. All the covers, because the cover work is stunning for this series. So they give you all the incredible covers for this series, this sci-fi fantasy series about a special little girl and the danger that she's in. They also give you the scripts and kind of what that writing might look like, and then inversely kind of how the art works. And I love that they give you breakdowns of color and how they chose different color palettes and why a color design in this particular page might work better than in another. So there's some really great things happening here. And of course, the pencil sketch work that is just so stunning here by Ian Bertram. So yes, Little Bird had to make my list, and it is a really phenomenal collected edition. I'm worried that stack I'm making might just fall over in the middle of the show. So buckle up, friends. So next in that same size category, I'm going with something a little older, but it's being reproduced right now. And that's the Savage Dragon Ultimate Collected Editions. They're on 3 right now. So they have 3 of these volumes. They have a little like slip sleeve. They capture, of course, all the original stories. So this volume 1 has the mini series, the Dragon 1 through 5, and then Savage Dragon 1 through 8. What I loved about this was I got so much more than just the comics. Of course, they give you all the covers at the back, but then they dive right into kind of an epic history of the character. And Erik Larsen, obviously, this is his baby. So he lets you into all of the sketchbooks, the early appearances in Graphic Fantasy and Megaton, all the practice work that led way before he got into the character that we know as Savage Dragon. And there's just some great evolution to his art style, to the character's look. They capture all of it. And then, of course, all the spin-offs coming out of Image that he was trying to do with some of the side characters. I enjoyed all of this stuff. And again, it's vast. I'm not even like scraping the surface of what you get in this first volume. It's really, really intense. All the little practice sketches and things that he's collected over the years, all the variant covers and such that he's done, elements from Freak Force, which was a spin-off he was trying to capture. And then at the back, and then, oh my God, it's still going. All the interior art pieces. And then at the back, he has all the little backup stories, because a lot of these issues would include other writers and artists doing secondary spin-off stories. So he includes all of that too. It's a massive edition at just the right size. Price point is still really low because it's MSRP of 40, so you can get it for much cheaper than that. Absolutely a phenomenal buy and a really great series to read if you want to get into that 90s nostalgia, right? Lastly, at that same size, I've got Die, which is a series I loved and I thought it was fantastic. And they've collected all 20 issues into one volume. It's really big, really heavy, but packed full of artwork. I mean, just absolutely great stuff. All the variant covers, all the character designs, because there's so many great character designs. Interesting look at the story. So the back has an entire essays section. And if you're someone that wants to read and expand on the universe, they talk about all the different role play concepts that built into this, the different communities that they were all connected to, the writers, the editors, the artists, the ways in which the universe worked. I mean, it is massive. It's like reading an entire other book here at the end. It just goes and goes and goes. So many cool things on how the story works, how the characters work, how the game within the story works. This is absolutely bursting with extras, and it's one of the best collected editions I've seen, period. So really well done. And of course, now there's even a role play game that they did for Kickstarter that you can get as well. So much to dive into here for Die. All right, we're down to the last two, and I'm going really long, so I'm going to try to go a little quicker because these are both Rick Remender masterpieces. I'm talking about Deadly Class. If you thought Little Bird's volume was big, now you know it's really small because these Rick Remender volumes are huge. So Deadly Class comes in, oh goodness, it might be 4 volumes about this big, the entire Deadly Class, which is a great read. If you haven't read it, Wes Craig on artwork and Remender on story, really phenomenal. And these are way bigger than an omnibus as far as in height and width, but in depth, the size is not as heavy and overbearing as it can be in some omnibus. And then, of course, at the back, just bursting with all the gorgeous variants and all the gorgeous artwork, and then, of course, all the like script to sketchbook pieces that we want from these kinds of comics, so that you can see the character design work that Wes Craig was doing. You can see the variants and how he kind of came up with the designs for some of them. Just really, really great. And as you can only get with artists as this talented, you get the pencils and inks, and you can see how it would become the page to panel to breakdowns that we really are loving. And then lastly, yes, the script for issue 1. Just a really densely packed collected edition, and I can't say enough about it. But I've got to keep going because I've got one last one, and that's The Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, which is easily my favorite of these oversized editions. A great story, Coen Brothers style, very violent if you like that kind of thing. Andre Lima Arau did the artwork here. So wonderful, so patient, very like unrushed, intense graphic violence. If that's your jam, you'll definitely get it here. There's a bunch in the back, artwork breakdowns, script breakdowns, blue line pencils to inkings, and you can kind of see the process that they went through for those. And it's stunning to see the layers that they go through in the artwork, so that you get a sense of like, how did it go from one to the next, so that you can see that same page from blue line to pencils to inks to beginnings of the layers of shading, right? Really great stuff. It's just a superb series, so I can't recommend it enough. Lastly, you get some of the paged script to break down to color, so you can see it evolving on the page. And again, it's this wonderfully oversized volume that collects the entire story, all the issues here in one volume. It's epic and it's wonderful. I promised 3 honorable mentions, and they're going to be right here next to me. We got Murder Falcon, great in that mid-sized volumes. That's just perfect. The whole story, all the artwork, all the Daniel Warren Johnson goodness. I got Philadelphia, which is now on its second. I think the 3rd volume is coming soon. Really wonderful. Descender has all 3 volumes, Descender 1, 2, and Ascender, all in those light, nice, oversized editions. The artwork looks stunning and the process work looks amazing. So those are my favorite collected editions. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Leave me a comment down below. What are some of your indie comic book collected edition favorites, with all the fun extras that you love and all the deep diving that gets you into the artwork and the understanding of that story? Hit me up with some of your favorites. I got to thank my channel members, the people that keep the lights on for YouTube and Instagram and all the different StreamYard tools that I get to use over here. Huge thank you to these folks, and they are eligible to win the channel membership giveaway I do each month. So thank you to those folks. I appreciate it. Let me know your favorites, and I'll see you again soon.